well, what's your plan? What's your market research? And he's like, market research, if you build it, they will come, right? He's like, your market research is field of dreams. And it's, yeah, it speaks to this exact point, right? But I do think there's some exceptions there for sure. I think really what that impinges on is this broader concept of market orientation, right? So typically what happens is, you're a brand, you're a company, and part of the development of your growth into a company with a unique brand, a unique product, is you're identifying unmet needs in the marketplace. You're understanding those needs, you're understanding unique customer preferences, you are collecting that data from your market, you're assimilating them back into your brand, and then you are delivering that back to consumer, right? You are being market driven.
I want to switch gears here a little bit because, another thing that marketers talk a lot about is differentiation, right? And I'm curious to get your take on like differentiation versus branding. Like clearly these things are important. Like maybe the brand is part of the way you communicate the differentiation. And back at the 1,000 Watt conference, there was a lot of talk of like, well, if we're all running the same playbook, then maybe we're not the same. And then there's also all these stats in the real estate market right now. They're like, well, there's more real estate agents right now than there are homes for sale, for sale, right? So, if you're, got a marketing background, again, you're like, well, you better be telling a pretty clear story on like who you are, or what you do, so you're not just like, I'm like that guy, right? Because that's doesn't seem like a business winning standpoint. So anyway, I'm hoping you can give me like some guides here on like how people should think about these concepts.
So I think the best way to think about it is differentiation is absolutely important, right? If we're going back to what are the core kind of three goals of the brand, it's to identify the offerings in the marketplace, to add unique value above and beyond the product, and to differentiate yourself from similar competitors, right? So why go with one real estate company versus another? There's going to be some kind of brass tacks that may differentiate, but there's also kind of a general feel, and there's a brand level explanation for why one may go to another. And so differentiation is important, number one. But number two, that differentiation has to be meaningful. And who defines what meaningful differentiation is? It's not you as the company. It's ultimately your customers, your future customers, your target market, right? So I think a lot of people think differentiation and they just want to be like different from, let's say, visual salience, right? So you say, well, there's all these other real estate people and they all have, black and gray and, blue, web layouts, and we're the pink one, right? We're the pink one. And it's like, okay, that, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. That is different, right? That is a difference. Is it a meaningful difference? Possible, right? Maybe there is something certainly to visual salience and attention and memorability associated with kind of distinct colors and sort of high contrast colors. So it could be meaningful, but chances are that's not the kind of differentiation that really allows you to build brand equity over time. Number one, because there's nothing proprietary or that you can own or build a moat around. So if pink web pages become something that customers seem to gravitate towards, guess what? Your competitors can switch to pink just as well. And then if everyone is pink becomes the norm. And then the one person with a gray scale, web page, they become the cool, interesting renegade people that attracts all the attention. So number one, that there's nothing kind of inherently differentiating about it, nothing you can build a moat around. But number two, it's not something that is going to be kind of enduring and meaningful over time. It doesn't touch upon a lot of what we discussed earlier in terms of kind of tapping into this deeper emotional reservoir. That if you think about what a consumer may associate with the brand, it certainly is these semantic elements. We spoke about this earlier, but ultimately what differentiates the brand is how it enables the consumer to feel, what it invokes in the consumer. And the visual saliency stuff, it can be a nice expression of this deeper emotional reservoir. If we go from kind of core brand to the external ways in which that is codified in the brand architecture, certainly. But it isn't meaningful differentiation typically in and of itself.
I guess business people always like to take this back to comparing these things to relationships. And so it almost reminds me of like the difference between attraction versus a long-term like emotional connection.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to think about it. Yeah, that like, yeah, you may, you're walking down the streets and you see somebody in funky green pants and like absolutely you're gonna go, your eyes are gonna drift over there. But on further inspection, are they somebody that you would want to have a conversation with? Are they somebody you would invite over to your table to have a drink with? Are they someone who you'd be friends with? That's totally different. And it may not be, there may be ways in which those two things are, mutually supportive. If you go to a concert and your goal is to meet people or to make friends, like having something unique about you that's visual gets the conversation started. But if you want to go beyond that, that's where you need that kind of that meaningful differentiation, and you need something deeper than just the visuals and just the aesthetics.
Right, exactly. We could again do a whole other thing on, fashion being, signaling mechanisms, to other humans and working similar to branding and operating on this like who you want to attract type thing. But stay focused. Uh so one thing I've been curious, about, and I think is going to get asked is we have agents that have been around forever, that I think could, and I want to give them a guide to, doing sort of the drill down exercise on like how they get to sort of the deep emotional connections that are going to like really make their messaging resonate. But there's probably like a chicken and the egg question that a lot of people are asking right now, which is like, so do I have to do all this exercise before I start, or do I run my business for a while and then do an inventory of who I'm, having a lot of success with and then drill in? So like chicken or the egg, like, I've got all this market strategy, market research, like whatever, do I try and have like the fully built pieces at the beginning, or do I do this like later on down my life cycle?
This is a real, genuine challenge. And I mean, if there was a simple, straightforward kind of checklist or guide, then, business success would be guaranteed. But obviously, there's no success. There's nothing guaranteed in business. And so this is, I think, one of the biggest stumbling blocks. And there genuinely is no perfect solution. I think in terms of mitigating risk and really trying to put yourself in the best position to succeed, I think is really to think about it in stages, right? So if you're a early stage business, early stage brand, like the most important milestone you have to meet is establishing product market fit, right? So you have in the very beginning, all entrepreneurs, all business people, all they have is an idea. They have a hypothesis about how this product or how this company, how this service is going to resonate and is going to be valuable with their target market, right? Or a target market. But who ultimately decides what's valuable? The market decides what's valuable. And so product market fit, if you go into a kind of lean startup method, this is a process where we're constantly iterating, we're gathering feedback, we're changing things up. You can either change elements of the product, you can either change the target market. We got the product right, but it's not the right people. Oh, the people express an interest, but the product's not quite right, so I'm going to adjust it. Through this long, arduous process of numerous testing and iterating, hopefully you do reach that stage of establishing product market fit. And I think there's a reason why it's called product market fit and not brand market fit, because I think, marketers get into all sorts of debates. Oh, it's the 4 Ps. Yeah, it's the 4 Ps, product placement, pricing, and promotion. But one, quite frankly, is just more important than the others. Product is more important, right? So product market fit, very, very, very important. Kind of the raw value, the most direct vessel of value is the product. That can be a service-based product, can be a physical product. That is the most important element of the marketing mix. You want to establish that product market fit such that the raw tax of your product are valued by at least a target market, such that they would pay you for it, right? You can engage in this exchange of value, which is at the very core of marketing. And then I think once you reach this product market fit, then you're really in this position to invest heavily in brand, right? That's really where you can scale this. You can scale it to, new markets. You can scale this in terms of your product portfolio. And that's really where brand comes in. I think pre-market fit, I know different marketers think differently. For me, I think pre-market fit, brand, you do the bare minimum, right? You want to have a respectable brand. You want to have, the basics of your UX and your web design and all of that. And you want to have, a name that's not laughable, and you want to have some IP. But aside from that, you don't want to invest too early in brand, number one, because if you fail, which most startups do, and you don't establish product market fit, you've wasted a ton of time and money and resources on something that has no use anymore. But two, once you establish product market fit, that's really when you're in a position to really build a brand. Now you have, at least from one target market, some data and some insights about why this core product is valuable. Those are insights that are very useful to have in a crowded marketplace, that you can scale this, you can build some differentiation, you can begin to build some equity with growth marketing and brand building. And I think so really kind of thinking about it in terms of those stages, I think is kind of the best general heuristic.
No, and I really like what you're saying there. And I'd probably add on that a real estate agent, also sort of has the parallel path that's happening that is like their personal career. And so early in that career, they themselves are going to be learning how to do the job and learning what they enjoy doing and learning, like what markets they're most successful in. And so there's almost like this other parallel path that's happening. So it's probably, you probably can push that, sort of the big brain, galaxy brain marketing thought, down a few years and wait till you have your feet under you. So you really like have something to dig into, and you're not sort of building a fake thing. Definitely.
Meet Move2, your lead's new favorite way to search for homes. The Move2 app is the ultimate mobile companion to your Real Geeks website. Sleek, fast, and insanely easy to use, Move2 turns home searching into an experience your leads will want to come back to again and again. Designed to help your leads find the right home faster, Move2 delivers a smooth, modern search with smart, actionable CTAs right on their phones. Boost your lead engagement with features designed to convert interest into action. With powerful search features mirroring those of your website, your leads can deep dive homes with pools, specific neighborhoods, or even a 3-car garage. If it's searchable on your site, it's instantly at their fingertips on Move2. Move2, mobile search made smarter for your leads and your business.
The other thing I really like that you said there is that the product is the most important. And I've played this rhetorical game with people many times that are like, okay, who is the best marketers out there? Is it the people at Apple, or is it the people at a brand who's growing despite the fact that the company has not invested in the product in years, right? And I tend to argue that it's not Apple, right? Like they have really skilled product people that know exactly how to like build a very compelling product. But the marketers at the other company are having to work a lot harder because the product doesn't necessarily sell itself, right? That's not an ideal situation. That is the argument is this a flawed situation. But yeah, just to reinforce the product being a hyper important part of that 4P mix.
Definitely, definitely. I think it's also, dependent on what stage the business and the brand is. So I think, especially early on, you're not going to be able to attract and retain customers through placement or pricing or promotion, right? If you don't have a core product that provides, value in a way where customers would actually want to send you money for it or send you time for it or engage otherwise in this exchange of value, like you just don't have a solvent business. And once you have that, then you can invest in branding. And there's a huge, I mean, you mentioned Apple, so the huge obvious interplay between brand and product. I think most kind of tech geeks would argue that, yeah, the iPhone is if we're just looking at the brass tacks features, is not actually as good as maybe Android or Samsung, but it's the Apple brand, it's the ecosystem, it's the network effects, it's being able to send people, other Apple people, text messages that don't show up in different colors.
Talk about a stroke of genius right there.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, yeah, there's this wonderful interplay, obviously, between brand and product. But, even for a massive, $2 trillion company like Apple, in the beginning in the 70s, it had to be about product, right? And Steve Jobs and team had these ideas about how product should look and feel and how technology should enter people's lives. And those were big ideal brand conversations that ultimately ended up influencing a whole portfolio of products. But if those ideals failed to be iterated into the product, very early on, we're talking, 70s and 80s, all the way up to, the iPhone 2007, still it's a product conversation. So yeah, they're all important ultimately, but I think at different stages of the company.
All right. So I got at least 2 more questions and we're running out of time. And so the first one is, you walked through an exercise that starts with, this is the product that we make. And ends in the client thinking about their death. And I want you to walk people through what we're trying to accomplish there, and what this whole thing is anyway.
Totally. Yes, this is what we call in the book the true why test, and it's a methodology, a market research methodology for really drilling down very deeply into what we hope is this kind of emotional reservoir, which our product may be able to tap into, and which ultimately we can build a brand around. And this actually dovetails nicely to what we spoke about earlier in terms of once you're at that stage of product market fit and you get some insights, now you're in a position to really invest in brand and scale that brand for the long term. And so the brand that we spoke about, and I think really provides a great example of this, is Airbnb. So Airbnb had, this is going back into around, I think it was 2009, 2010, had established product market fit. And they had data suggesting that, yeah, people are engaged in this, dual-sided marketplace, both on the renter side as well as the subletter side. And, we have good product market fit. So now we're in a position to really scale that and take this business to the next level. And so what they did is a version of the true why test, where they said, well, why is this product valuable at kind of a product level, a simple value level? Like, why is it important, right? So why is it important to stay at an Airbnb property as opposed to a hotel, right? And in the book, we go through the exact kind of methodology here. You get the actual aggregated responses of all of their customers in this aggregated market research. And so you start kind of early on, and it's like, oh, well, hotels are overpriced and they're kind of unspecial. Okay. And so you get, that's something. But the goal of the true why test is really to get to this deeper emotional reservoir. You want, as you said earlier, you want to get to death, right? And that's actually a methodological feature. So you're really being insatiable in your pursuit of like a deeper emotional connection associated with this unique value your product has. So why is it important to stay at something that is not generic? And people say, oh, when you travel, you want to have, authentic experiences. Okay, it's getting somewhere, but like, why is it important to have authentic experiences, right? We're still kind of talking about basic value. Well, people want to have, people travel to make their lives richer. Right. And so it's like, okay, now you're getting somewhere. It's not really about, the logistics and the utilitarian nature of travel, right? We're not competing on price. We're competing for this greater vaunted human experience. And so you dive down, far enough, and you ask why, and then eventually you get to death, right? Why do you travel? To make your lives richer? Why is that important? Because we're finite creatures on this earth, right? If we live forever, none of this would matter. And philosophers will debate that endlessly, and that's a conversation for another time. But eventually you reach death on any given brand, on any given product. And that's when you know that as a market researcher, you can come up for air. And typically speaking, when you do that, the last kind of two or three, which precede death, that's kind of this really rich raw material, which then you can utilize as insights to kind of bake into your brand. And so that's exactly what Airbnb did. They realized that people travel to make their lives richer. They want to belong everywhere they go. They want to have these authentic experiences. That's a really long catchphrase for a brand. And so Airbnb really simplified that to belong anywhere. And that really became kind of the bleeding heart of the Airbnb brand and has really influenced everything that they've done since. So yeah, I think it's a really great methodology for kind of going from basic value to these deeper emotional insights.
Yeah, and so I love this exercise, and definitely like in my college career, it was something, I think we called it a means chain analysis. It's been a long time. So yeah, that's what that was. But it's super useful. It's super useful. And maybe the tip that I'd give the audience, and also so we can win the algorithm buzzword bingo, is you can go to ChatGPT and start asking these questions and let it play this out for you. So like after you got off stage, I did this and, picked a brand and started just asking why, and it took like 8 responses or so. And then it's like, well, we do this because we're all going to die. It's like, well, all of us, but you, ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And so you can start there, right? You can start there and say like, hey, this is who I am. This is what I do. This is who I like serving. Why is that important? Okay, why is that important? Why is that important? Why is that important? Right? And you're going to go down that path with people or with the AI And then as soon as you hit like, well, because we're all going to die, rewind, and then use that as a basis for starting to figure out your communication strategy, which we're running out of time. So we're not even going to talk about like communication strategy. So, all right. The last question I had for you, which hopefully we're not opening up too big of a thing here, is, I saw you hanging out at the conference for the rest of the period. And, you said you've done some other work in the real estate market. So I guess I'm just curious to get your reaction to the rest of the things that were said on stage, or things that any like shower thought, eureka moments that you had, after the conference that you thought, man, that industry, the real estate industry, really needs to be thinking about X.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, I wouldn't say I have kind of direct expertise in real estate. That's much more kind of on your side of the call. But yeah, I mean the 1,000 Watt conference, as we were talking about earlier, the summit. I mean that was just it was an amazing experience. You feel like as a speaker, I afterwards was able to sit and be able to see a wide array of talks, and it's just like drinking from a fire hose. Like you're just getting so many great insights. And I think that the big thing that came up was of course AI. And that's I feel like that's can't complete a sentence now in 2025 without at least having AI as one of the words or the acronyms you're using. But I think it has just incredible relevance for a lot of our conversation, right? Because now the tools to be able to take an idea or to take a kernel or to have something that's unique and valuable and differentiated and meaningful, and to be able to scale it in unique and interesting ways in different modalities, whether it's visual, whether it's auditory, whether it's a unique way in which you address customers via email, whatever it is, like AI provides this incredible tool for scale. And I think that's really the promise of AI, at least in the kind of short term, medium term for marketing and branding, is really on the execution. And I think it's more important than ever to really get to that kernel, right? To get to that point of this is our conviction as a brand. This is what makes us unique. If marketing strategy is what do we do better than anybody else and who do we do it for? That's what we have to understand, right? And that's a hard fought battle to get to that kernel. And once we have it, if it's the right kernel, then we have these incredible tools of scale. We have these incredible tools of really making that instantiate in so many different ways. And so I see kind of the real promise for AI in the scale of these ideas. But I think a lot of the kind of the fundamental frameworks and the real fundamentals of human to human interactions and being relevant, being meaningful, tapping into deeper emotional connections, framing what you may think initially is really kind of basic utilitarian value in these, uncoverable, deeper emotional reservoirs. That's where the kernel lies. And so for me, it was real eye-opening in terms of just how much AI is already influencing the industry, and just kind of the need more than ever to kind of get to that kind of kernel of your unique brand, the unique meaning that you're providing.
That's awesome. That is where we have to end it, because I think that perfectly sums up a lot of what we've been thinking about over here. Matt, this has been truly spectacular. I've had a great time. Again, tell people where they can find you.
Absolutely. So yeah, fantastic chatting with you, Chris. Yeah, I'm happy to continue the conversation with any listeners. Probably the best way to get in touch with me is just my website, which is neuroscienceof.com. So I host a newsletter about marketing and psychology there. As we spoke about in the beginning, I've written a couple books. You can find all that on my website as well.
Awesome. And we'll put links to all of that down below. Everyone, thanks for tuning in. If you have any questions about the episode or any follow-up thoughts, concerns, leave them down below. We read all of your comments. Give us a like and a subscribe. That really helps us out. And we'll catch you next time. Thank you.